these photos and these details connected to this web of unsolved cases are rather unsettling. And that's putting it politely. I genuinely don't think that there is any case out there that is bigger than Epstein. This web is so huge and so tangled, and it is very clear that somebody did not want this mapped out. Many a somebody's. But today, I'm going to give it a crack anyway. And just to be clear, this is not the full story, not even by 5%. Because once you start pulling this thread, things get interesting. Welcome to Freaked Out with your psychic medium host, Liz. Today, guys, this is something you guys have been waiting for quite some time, and I have been racking my brain the last week and a half, which is why you have not seen a full-blown episode, which is why we're turning this one into a much longer version. It's going to take me a couple of days to record, but you guys are going to see it all at once. And unfortunately, what I have come to terms with is that we will have to do a second episode. We will drop that next week because there's just so much. I can't cover or keep up with everything going on. It's insane. Originally, I was going to show you images, videos of me going through these files, but I'll tell you, I could barely do it. I had to continuously keep getting up and removing myself from the situation. There were images, specifically 2 of them, which we will share here in a few moments. You'll see both of them sliding through. But those 2 images made me sick because I could see what was beyond the photo. All of the redactions, although we as a community cannot see through those photos, but I can feel certain things, and it makes me sick to my stomach. So I scratched that and decided that we are just going to go into it in the same old-fashioned way that we normally do, and I am going to be answering your very specific questions connected to Epstein and Epstein Files. By the way, guys, just an FYI, these are my visions, not facts. This is for discussion purposes only. Now, this is not the first time that we have covered this here. We've actually covered it on the podcast previously. I've done some Trump-related videos. I've done some Elon-related videos. A lot of those things are on the exclusive side and will be this following episode. So if you're interested in part 2, that one is a little bit, how should I say, more dark, sinister. Today is going to be dark and sinister, but next week's going to be even crazier, which is why we're making it an exclusive episode. So if you are not someone who has an exclusive membership here, highly recommend going and signing up so that you can take a looky-loo, because you guys are not going to want to miss this. Now, first things first, let's start off with just the basic questions people have for me. People keep asking if these photos and these details on these emails and pictures that have been put in the Epstein files will ever not be redacted. And although some pieces may not ever be shown, and that's because there are pedophiles out there, there are people that would use that content. It's disgusting. And I don't feel like the images or the details of the children will come out, thankfully. But with that being said, I feel like a few more survivors will in fact stand up and share that they were part of this and this is what happened. I see a string of people. You know how we had Diddy happen and all these people started coming to the surface? I feel like the same thing is going to happen here. And I feel like we're going to continue to keep fighting it because everyone keeps saying that no one is going down for what has happened or in these files because it's not necessarily proof, but yes, there is. And we should absolutely be going after these criminals, and it will happen. Maybe not right now, Maybe not in the next few years, but it will eventually all come tumbling down for all of the people involved, at least the ones that are alive. Another question that I keep getting: can we trust the FBI? That question is a difficult one to answer because I do believe that there are a few FBI agents that we could absolutely trust, have the absolute best interest of us getting things solved, wanting to help the world, wanting to solve these cases of these kids. But there are also higher ups that are afraid of certain administrations as well. So, yes and no. We have a few that we can absolutely trust, and then we have a few that we absolutely cannot. And ironically enough, there are a lot more women FBI agents that I believe that are trustworthy than the male side. And I'm not talking about every male. I just keep seeing this same energy, if you know what I'm talking about. If you see the specific FBI agent, you'll just know based on their appearance and how they present themselves if you can trust them or not. So that is how I think you should go about doing that. Speaking of the FBI, we want to go over the coded words because people keep asking me about this, and I found out from Landon specifically what these coded messages mean. And to me, I'm like, and we can't do anything about this? So let's go over the list of words, codes that these pedos were using in the emails that they communicated with each other. And also they used it in other elements too, like the day-to-day use, not necessarily through email, videos, everything. And by the way, we have yet to even, like, I'd say we have 10% of the details. We are missing 90% of the proof. Hot dog represents boy. Not little boy, but boy. Pizza is referencing girl. They don't even have names anymore. Cheese is reference to little girl. Pasta is reference to little boy. Ice cream is referencing male prostitute. And I'm going to assume underage male prostitute. Walnut is referencing a person of color, like what? Map refers to semen, and sauce refers to an orgy. Now, not everyone is using this same coding, and not everyone's using a menu from the Olive Garden. Coded conversation shifts constantly. It evolves to not be detected, and it usually gets abandoned, and then they redo different words for different children. And what's crazy to me, above and beyond all of this, they also have individual nicknames they give these children, like Bear or Bush or Dolly. Like they give them all these coded names when they enter them into the database and spread them around like Pokemon cards. A lot of you guys have asked me a lot of questions, so we're going to get into it now. Let's start off with Bill Clinton. Why does Bill Clinton appear on many flight logs if he claims that he had no knowledge of the Epstein Files or the Epstein crimes? Two things can be true at the same time. Bill is absolutely lying about his connections to Epstein and everything connected to it. From what I gather, Epstein was a fan, just based on the art in and around his home from Bill, the photo, the painting of Bill in high heels. I get an energy from that Bill liked to cross-dress, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. He just had to keep that hidden because of the political side of things. In fact, a lot of political people and celebrities and people who think they're absolutely important hide their true identity because they feel it gross or disgusting in the world. And unfortunately, Bill also had a flavor and taste for young females. Epstein liked to do that to people. He liked to pull that kind of energy out of them to find out what their kink was, and he would hold on to that and then provide them with the kink that they were into. Like, I keep seeing Bill would go into a room and then Epstein would like romance him a little bit, like, look what I got for you. He would have dresses and high heels and women, young women, and they would all gather around and, have fun. in their own interesting way of having fun, which is, I mean, not a problem as long as you don't put the minors into it. And I do believe that there were a few women that were young that Bill was, in fact, involved with. And did he ask questions about their age? No. Did he know that they were this age? No. But did they look that age? No. So for me, all of these details are heavily important. And I know that there's some things coming out with Bill and Hillary and talking and sharing their side of certain things. I hope that Bill is 100% honest, because I feel like if he is, we can have more evidence. And I do believe he has some evidence of his own, like home videos and images and pictures that are not in the Epstein files, that would be absolutely helpful to bringing some of these pedos down. And I think that's why they're afraid of Bill a little bit too. Now, what meetings occurred off the books when they would travel? Why were they doing it? I don't necessarily feel like everything that they were doing was illegal, but I do believe that this gave them the space to say, hey, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. I keep seeing that although Epstein's favorite aspect of his criminal activities was the ring, but also blackmailing these people, because he knows deep down inside, because he has his own disturbing kink, that everyone has a disturbing kink. And that blackmail side of it, he got a major kick out of. Will Bill Clinton be able to genuinely make a difference and change things if in fact he does come forward and share his side of the story? Yes and no. Yes, eventually. No, not at this time. Now let's get into somebody who is hella connected, but pretending, and his followers are pretending that he's not, which is so wild to me, but let's get into it. What is the full extent of Donald Trump and Epstein's relationship prior to their reported falling out? They were besties. Their girls got along. They enjoyed the same thing. Donald, see, Donnie Boy had no problem sharing his kinks with Epstein right off the hop. And Epstein likes financial mogul men. And he was hella drawn to Donald Trump from the very beginning. And from what I can see, he actually pulled Donald more out of his shell, if you will, and the two of them became quite literal best friends with everything. They talked every day. They shared little things together to each other. They cheated, they orgied, they swapped. They did everything together, and it was not a far stretch for Donald to go out there. Donald liked what Epstein could do for him, because Epstein was willing to roll out the red carpet for Donald every time, including having an array of women. And Donald, too, he was like, oh, yeah, you got your own sets of women? So do I. Come over to go see the USA pageants, the teen one and the adult one. And he would show how these women would throw themselves at him. I mean, that's how he saw it in his mind. I am seeing that these women were very, very uncomfortable. Some of them did play into his game a little bit. And I hate to say this, but I feel like they would hear rumors that the results were already predetermined before these women would go on stage. And basically, whoever sucked up to Trump and Trump's people the most would basically be the most likely to win. And some of these women would fall through and some of them would not. And that's what I feel would happen there. I don't see like an emotional bond. And Trump used Epstein and his connections, and Epstein used Trump and his connections. So they both got to open each other's black book up and get more involved in certain elements. It was definitely not just an acquaintance energy. They really liked each other. It was like two people moving in the same ecosystem, aware of each other's leverage and usefulness. Now, what specifically caused the relationship to break? It's very interesting to me because I feel like Trump and Elon are currently in the same energy when it comes to this dynamic. And the two of them are also having a lot of like fight related issues, little jabs here and there at each other. And I think that's what happened when two cocky men get to being too cocky, and then one wants to be the king and then the other one wants to be the king. There's going to be some conflict. I don't necessarily think it was a big reason, but I do keep seeing that Epstein told Trump that if he ever goes down, that he's bringing Trump down with him. And I think that did not sit well with Trump, and thus the beginning of the end of their relationship, because Trump was in the process of doing the president run of his life, making deals with every single dictator on the planet. And Epstein had that piece where he could ruin him. Thus, the reason that I believe that Epstein is no longer with us. I understand there are a lot of people out there that believe that Epstein is still alive. And I would probably be on that train too, but I see a hit. I see that he was killed because they were afraid of what was going to come out. He was going to start singing like a little birdie about everything, including the things we do not have access to. He knew he was not getting out of this. He used his get out of jail card free a million times, and he was already warned that no one else can give him any more deals to get him out. So that is why he is no longer with us. Could there have been a switcheroony in the sense of like Trump thinks he's dead and he got switched out because he had somebody there to protect him and help him? I mean, it is possible. I am seeing Epstein on the other side, and I am also seeing that although he is no longer here, his presence is still here. There are people that have still to this day all of the documents, like the video proof and literally videos of all of these moguls hurting women, the Hunger Game energy, making these women, and young boys and little girls, fight and compete, and all for their own pleasure. All of these things stem from something. And from what I gather, there is a lot of proof showing otherwise. Thus, the reason Epstein is no longer here. Now, did the two of them have any disputes tied to witnesses and properties and social circles? Absolutely. Specifically, Virginia Giuffre. She's just more or less an example of just one of many. But you'll notice that when she talks about the Donald Trump side of things in her book, she just references where she got her job. She just referencing those details. He had a bigger ring there. He would have employees get hired and then they would watch them. So from what I can see, there's absolutely many crossover witnesses. And although people were scared of Epstein, they're more scared of Trump. And it's not for any other reason, but the absolute power that he has in certain people's pockets. People are trying to protect him right now. They won't give a shit in a couple of years, but as of right this moment, he's got a lot of say and a lot of control. And from what I gather, these people are absolutely afraid to say anything. Why would you? Look what happened with Stormy Daniels. She went up against this guy, the only brave woman out there to do this. And not only was she called a hooker and she was called, a porn star, she didn't have an identity. None of those things came forward. She was mistreated so badly, and I am surprised that she is still alive. And the only reason I think she's still alive is because they did not want to have any suspicious energy. They already took out Ivana. They already took out Virginia and many, many, many other people. So why would they go after her right now? Even with Virginia, they took a while before they started coming after her. And with Stormy, it would not surprise me if all of a sudden one day there is an accidental or an unaliving that happens to herself and she is no longer with us. Because I'll tell you, that is their motto: make it look like an accident. And I also am seeing that they had a lot of fights over territories. And although they didn't necessarily have arguments like normal, regular people would, but there were a lot of threats between the two of them. Coded threats, if you will. And I believe, I have yet to get there, but I believe in the Epstein Files, there are some conversations that are coded that doesn't make any sense, and it could be connected to that. And of course, Epstein's world did not operate on friendships. It operated on leverage, and he had one hell of a bucket. Not even a bucket, like an island size amount of evidence against Donald Trump himself. He collected information like other people collect information for insurance purposes. And I'm also being shown that he was blackmailing the hell out of Trump at the end of his life. And I keep seeing, and I've seen this for years now, with the click of a button. There's a red little button that is supposed to be pressed when it is time for those details to come out. Press the button. We want all those details now. One of his associates is supposed to do this at some point. It would be great if it happened right now. I'm manifesting that energy. Press that red button. So when people ask Trump, did you know what Epstein was really doing? Give him a lie detector test, because he will lie through his teeth. All right, now let's get into Prince Andrew. Why did Prince Andrew deny knowing Virginia Giuffre before evidence contradicted him? It's all about the deny, and I hate to say this, but I also believe the king himself had also connected to Virginia in the past. Maybe not in the same way Andrew did, but I do believe that the king, who is currently a sitting king, knew this information as well and did not share. There's also rumors spreading around that Miss Diana, Princess Diana, knew what was going on, and thus the reason she walked away, and thus the reason she was killed. I've always felt like the royals were heavily involved in her dying. Not paparazzi. Maybe the paparazzi were the ones who did it, but they were the ones who said to do it. But this could absolutely be part of that without a doubt. Andrew knew that he had taken photos with Virginia, but he thought something would end up getting scrubbed. And he didn't want to lose his title. He didn't want anything to happen. He didn't want to shame his family. And from what I can see, Queen Elizabeth said, you need to make this go away no matter what. She also knew that he had a lot of kink related things because she caught him doing a hell of a lot. And because, their family, we just put a lid on it. That's the old school energy and pretend it doesn't exist. I believe that Andrew was probably one of the nicer pedos in that circle. He didn't necessarily treat the young girls terribly. He just went along with it. Epstein had the connection to young females, and it breaks my heart to say this, but I believe that Andrew was involved with young girls as young as like 6 years old. And I also see that he needs to come forward and share his part of the story so that some of these survivors can not only be validated, but other people that are currently in power can also be brought down. Not that there's anything to bring down these powerful people. And you know what's crazy? Apparently Putin was also, as evil as he is, did not want certain elements to happen with children. How screwed up is that? Putin is not as evil. We've always been told that this man is the most evil person in the world. Now, who advised Andrew during the BBC interview that intensified public scrutiny? Honestly, someone who lived in a bubble. The interview felt like it was designed by people who thought technical explanations would somehow erase the reality of it. It prioritized wording over humanity, and that's why it landed so bad. I feel like the advice that he received was focused on control, not accountability. Stick to the script. Don't admit anything. Don't show emotion. And somehow just expected the public to be like, yeah, that's totally fine. If that interview was meant to clear things up, it did the opposite. Now, what did the palace know? They knew a hell of a lot more than they're letting on. I believe that Andrew spoke directly to Charles and, well, let's just say they just tried to bury things, but everyone in that castle knew what was going on. And they had seen the photo and they knew he was, well, guilty, but they pretended as if it wasn't happening anyway because we couldn't ruin a birthday party. Why was no criminal investigation pursued in the UK despite multiple accusations and allegations? This part angers me the most. From what I receive as the answer, it is fear. Fear of what gets exposed. Because if we open that can of worms to Andrew, who knows what other can of worms we're going to open for the remainder of the family. We cannot have anyone in the royal family being problematic, let alone the lot of them. They'll never be trusted again. If it hadn't been somebody with a title, I believe we wouldn't even be having this conversation today. The investigation wouldn't have a big question mark on it. Now let's head into Ghislaine Maxwell. We've covered her recently. If you're interested in a full-blown episode, I highly recommend. I've been having a lot of random visions of Maxwell, so much so that it's confusing to me. She is panicking in her cell. There's like a package that is supposed to arrive from one place to the next, and it seems like lost in translation. We have no idea where it is. She's freaking out, doesn't know where it's at, and this package has a lot of information, a lot of videos or images that she's trying to basically have destroyed, but it's nowhere to be seen. And she is nervous because this package was about to be delivered like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it has yet to be delivered. And what I am sensing is going to happen where with unclaimed packages that happen all over the place is it's going to land in somebody's home. No one's going to know what it's about, and they're going to look into it, and then it's going to be a whole thing. And I hope this happens. Hopefully no one obtains this package because it's very, very important, and she is scared. Ghislaine pisses me off more than the rest of them because to me, a woman should not be like this. Sorry to say, but it's true. You have more emotions than a biological cisgender male would. You have empathy. You were also hurt by your own father. You should have sympathy for women in general. You just don't. You're one of those women that are like, I'm here to please men, but in reality, that's not really the case. You just tell people that. You're not a girl's girl, never was a girl's girl. In fact, you've also done very questionable things with very young females. And I'm not even referencing older than 10. I'm referencing younger than 10. She is disgusting. And she did it for him because she loved him so much. And she was never going to get what she wanted from him, even though she was basically his slave for the entirety of their relationship. Willing slave, but slave nonetheless. There's going to be more when it comes to her. I feel like there's going to be some sort of deal, or they're going to try to come to a deal with her. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I see her getting out of jail, and I don't like seeing that. So it's very possible that the blackmail information she has, which she swore up and down to other elite members that she would never share, but something tells me that she might be saying something else like, well, if I'm going to stay in here, I might as well be killed. So for me, I've got nothing to lose. We'll see how all that plays out. And I hope it goes in our favor. And I hope she does get caught red-handed alongside of all of the other elites. Now, why were there no additional arrests made following her sentence? I mean, this makes many people angry, as am I. Because if she trafficked alone, the story ends there. But that's not how trafficking works, ever. There are recruiters, there are facilitators, fixers, drivers, transporters. Systems don't just run on one person, especially this big of a platform. Why did we stop there? Now, I know they didn't have all the information, but they certainly could have gotten it. I would have been making deals left, right, and center if I was her, and although she was scared of the same fate Epstein had, it would look sus. She has that energy, because if she just miraculously died the same way Epstein did, there would be questions about it. I believe that she is protecting a hell of a lot of people, but I also keep feeling like that protection is slowly running out, and I don't necessarily think she's going to keep protecting everyone, at least not for the next little while. Maybe the next 2 years, this protection will stay in place, but eventually she's going to get stir crazy, more energy with that. I don't feel like people are treating her very well because she's a sex offender. Let's talk about Les Wexner next. He isn't just a wealthy guy who crossed paths with Epstein. He's a billionaire retail mogul, the founder of L Brands, the force behind Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, multiple global retail empires. And if you'll notice, it's a lot of gear towards women. He was one hell of a powerful man, a man who understood money and contracts and control better than most people did. So when his name showed up in the Epstein show, it wasn't casual, it was structured. Why did Les grant Epstein unprecedented financial authority? It's not normal, that's for sure. Not in business, and certainly not at that level. You don't hand over sweeping financial control to someone unless one of 3 things are true. You trust them completely, which who would trust that guy? They're doing something important for you, or they're blackmailing you. From what I'm seeing, blackmail was a huge piece of this. Epstein wasn't just helping, he was empowering. He had reach, he had access. What were those secrets? From what I gather, they had a romantic relationship, him and Epstein, and they may have involved minors as well. And I believe that Epstein said, well, hey, I'll tell everyone about that night. Now, I also keep seeing that Epstein was like drugging his drink. Whew. This was all set up to obtain power and control, and that's the reason he gave it to him. Now, why did this relationship continue as long as it did without any oversight? I mean, because Epstein continued to say, hey, remember what I got, this never ends. And unfortunately for Wes, he was stuck in that trap and could not get out. And Epstein didn't just manage the money, he managed silence. He managed risk. It was pretty intense. All right, we're gonna stop here. I'll be back to record part 2, possibly tomorrow, because I got a lot here. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode. I know you guys get to watch the whole thing together, which makes it a lot better for you guys. But we are back for part 2. And oh my gosh, so I've also been going through all of the Epstein files. I've been going through them like one by one. You know, there's set 1 all the way to 12, and then you can download up to set 7. And then the first bulk load was photos of his New York home. Now I'm on to, I think, the Epstein Island photos, which is very traumatizing because as I am going through these photos, I'm picking up on energy, scary energy, like this island. they can get away with these things, like the massages, having sex with underage females and males, but they want this island so that they can get away with even more. That island, above and beyond hanging out with the elite, there are games that go on there. And I'm not talking about bingo and Monopoly. I am talking about like Hunger Games, Squid Games. These movies and shows are like stemming from something. And I truly believe that the Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins is the author of the Hunger Games. And I believe that she might have had like a peek, a window into the elite and what they do. And I gotta tell you, I believe that they are killing people on this island for sport. They're chasing them. They'll put like leopards and chase them, and they'll fuck with them and bet on them. And there have been many, many, many deaths there. And I'm not talking about like one or two. I'm talking about like hundreds and thousands. And a lot of these people are from the sex trafficking ring, and some are from other countries, from Asia, from Europe, from the US, from Canada, from Australia, from South Africa, everywhere. And it's intense. As I go through these pictures, there are little children. I know that there has been recently a claim of Epstein having a child, and I believe he actually has a few children. And I believe some were accidental, and these women got away, changed their name kind of thing. Some did not get away, naively thinking that they were going to be able to have the support of Epstein for their child, when all that happened was Epstein basically took that child and put them back in the circuit, selling that kid off. There's also one boy that is now a man who's out there walking around knowing that he's Epstein's kid, and I also believe he will eventually come forward. It is crazy because there's no amount of content that I can create to cover everything unless I literally dedicate my life to this. So it is wild, but we're going to continue to carry on because there's so much to share. But if you're interested, I do have those files. I've got part 1 and part 2 up, working on a part 3. We're going to get to the emails eventually as well. Right now, we're just looking at the photos together. It is wild. Now let's get back into these men who have significant roles in the Epstein Files. Let's get into Alan Dershowitz. Alan was considered one of the most high-profile defense attorneys in modern American history, aka a sleazeball. He went to Harvard Law. He was a professor there. I can only imagine the amount of women that were harassed by this man. But then again, these college girls, although an afterthought for him, preferred little children as well. That's my visions on it. Now, when his name showed up connected to the Epstein Files, people were not surprised. No one is. Now, here's a question people ask all the time. Why were civil cases connected to Alan resolved without full evidentiary hearings? Because evidentiary hearings are pretty dangerous, especially when it comes to protecting themselves. And from what I feel, it's not because it was nothing or there was nothing to be examined. It ended early because of the risk of what was going to come out. And settlements, just throwing money at it, makes things disappear. Especially when somebody feels like they're going after him alone and they keep hearing, you won't get any better than that. You won't get any better than that. And they're kind of forced essentially to take plea deals financially. Nothing says we're confident like making sure that nobody sees the evidence. I'm also seeing like sealed material. It was what is needed to bring these people down, specifically Alan. And I believe that Epstein had a huge chunk of blackmail connected to this guy. And I feel like he worked for Epstein for free at times. Now, when it comes back to Epstein, I see that some of these people that I have just named, and I'm not sure which one, and there are many others. He had like 50 to 60 to 70 people that he trusted within his circle to a degree. He would tell his people, like, hey, I have evidence on, let's use him as an example, Elon Musk. And I put it on this island in this file folder. Here is the code. If anything ever happens, I want you to release this information. And I believe that he did that with everyone connected to his circle. And then if, let's just say, he had a falling out, which I believe he did with multiple people, but Trump specifically, he took away the details of what he gave Trump and like rearranged for those items to be moved elsewhere. I see that a lot of these things are in libraries all over the world, and audio, images, recordings, graphic details, and even murder, all connected to these files on all of these different islands. And from what I can see, Alan was a pretty significant person who had a lot of those details, but I'm seeing that a lot of those details have since been moved, and I'm not exactly sure why. Who took possession of Epstein's remaining data and property? Well, he would then take somebody like a housemaid or somebody who would clean his property or a driver, and he would say, hey, I'm going to put this property in your name. It's an investment. If anything shall ever happen to me, you will have access to it because it's yours. I'm going to use your name. He had a lot of like fake names too, but it could always lead back to him. So he would use people he would work with. And that is basically what would happen. He didn't necessarily trust these people, but he would do this to hide assets. He would do this to hide all of the proof. And you know what's crazy to me? All of these things being released, yet for some reason, somehow, we're only finding these details out now. Why didn't we make a bigger deal about it when all of this came about? Why are we protecting all of these people? Now let's talk about Epstein and his death, because a lot of people keep talking to me about this, and I want to be very clear. Although there are photos and images and video cuts that keep coming out connected to being Epstein, I believe that they are AI images. I believe that they are fake. I believe that they are being altered. I know I'm sounding like MAGA with all of that, but it's true. I feel like these things are being exposed so that we can focus on, let's just say, him still being alive, because it spins a narrative away from the administration. If he's in and alive by himself somewhere else, that takes it away, and we're still searching for Epstein when in fact he's gone. What I believe is this. When it came to Epstein and his death, he was marked for death, and he was given a certain time frame of when he was going to release to whomever all of these different elites. Through his lawyer, they were said, look, you will not be killed, you will not be harmed, you will be safe. I do believe that they could have potentially wanted a swap to happen to help him out, make it look like an accident. But I can tell you this, he did not make any deal with anyone because what he had was so valuable. He could blow everybody's life up. I know we've got a lot of evidence now, and we're going and closing our eyes, but this would be not necessarily hearsay proof. This would be documented videos. Like, we cannot mess up these videos. They are authentic, and it would show people killing girls, killing boys, the trafficked children of the world, everything being with all these different high roller elite people. So although it would be convenient and it would make sense on a different timeline, I see Epstein on the other side. I feel like not only did he die, but I also feel like he was marked for death, because he was going to start singing like a little birdie. and somebody heard. His lawyer, I believe, was being like a double agent and was in fact getting paid from another elite member, which I can't share too much about here, unfortunately. And this elite member had said something like, I'll pay you 10 times as much as you're getting from him, and you share everything he shares with you. And the only confidence he had was through this person and Ghislaine. And Ghislaine was also informing Epstein, hey, you got to be careful. These people are coming after you. She went into silence mode. She was aware. But Epstein believed in his people to a degree. He didn't think it would go in that direction until he saw the person come to harm him. Now, from what I can see, this person was not necessarily like a regular guard. I can see this was somebody who was sent into the prison as a disguise, dressed up, carried on, and killed Epstein and made it look like an accident. I am also feeling as though there are 2 inmates that have information on this, and I believe one of them is already gone. I feel like he was doing something, or he had ability to do certain tasks because of his behavior, and I feel like he saw something. And then the other one as well saw something. And the 2 of them did talk to each other. And of course, because there are inmates within that prison that was also like undercover, pretending to be somebody, heard about it, and then killed off one of these people. It's insane. It is crazy how far this whole thing goes. And if Epstein was still alive, I don't know, I just feel like we would have found him by now. Even with him changing up his clothing, his hair, his body is at I.J. Morris Star of David Cemetery in Palm Beach County, and that's in Florida. And he's in the Jewish section of the cemetery. And also want to point out, the headstone is simple. It does not include his name. Only his family name appears. Which is like, why are we doing that? That is also super sus. Again, kind of playing into that theory, but I believe that we need to try to exhume his body to get this information. And no one is even trying to do that, even with all of the accusations going on. Now, if you ask me, I don't necessarily think that his body is in the ground. Oh gosh, I think that they disposed of it and put somebody else in there. That's what I feel. I know, it's crazy, this whole crazy mess. Now, his parents are buried there as well. He was also close to the beach, and I believe that there is a lot of sus connected to this. Now let's get into Elon. Elon is playing a very dirty game right now. He is lighting a match and throwing it. And I keep seeing that although him and Trump have made up, I believe that he's still sour. He wanted more recognition. He wanted more from Trump. He gave his utmost loyalty to Trump in the biggest way possible. And Trump basically used him like he uses everybody else. All these people, like this Pam Bondi person, like, girl, he is using you. He don't give 2 shits about you. These people will go to bat for him like you wouldn't believe. They don't get the money that they deserve. I also see like Elon is somebody who gets paid every minute of every day, and Trump gave him nothing too. And Trump also promised him that with that election, you know, the one where he was wearing the cheese hat, that he would get that role no matter what. They would rig the election. Trump could give 2 shits less about that. He made these promises and it never happened. He made promises to Elon about a lot of things and it's not coming out. And although Elon is absolutely a puppet in all of this, but Elon is starting to see, hey, wait a minute, I'm no longer drinking this Trump Kool-Aid. I've done an episode on this before and it's gonna blow up in Trump and Elon's face. So just you wait while Karen, Space Karen, and Trump are going at each other, because it's going to be wild when it happens. It is slightly happening now, and I keep seeing them having very heated arguments. Elon has obviously been manipulated by Trump, as are all of his MAGA followers. Sorry, but it's true. There is not one thing. We can get a video of Trump doing some very lewd acts, not just hearing about the lewd acts. I'm talking about foolproof video lewd acts, and they would still be like, fake, AI, woke. They're the whole thing. They will die on that hill, including my own mother-in-law. Now, Elon knows far more than what he's letting on, which is good, especially when it comes to his role connected to Epstein. Essentially, Elon was trying to be Trump's new Epstein, but more of like the cyber side of things, that geeky friend. He is going to keep on bringing up more and more details of this Epstein file to Trump and the public itself. Now, when it comes to Epstein, he was not that science guy. He was more of like philosophy kind of smart, or at least he thought he was. He's a lot less smart than he thought he was. Epstein did not have any interest in technology itself. In fact, the only technology he was interested in was like security related things, recording gadgets, but that's about it. And Epstein collected intelligence on tech figures the same way he did everywhere else. And Elon knows this. Now let's talk about the X acquisition. I don't believe that Elon just bought this because he wanted to own a platform, even though that was something he would enjoy. It was more or less to control the conversation, to help Trump. Because do you guys remember back in the day when he was going against Biden and then they cut him off on Twitter? That was one hell of a moment. And he cried like a little baby, and Elon's like, oh, come here, toddler. We'll help you get it back. Don't worry, baby. Now, here's the interesting piece of this. I believe this year, Elon is approaching a moment where he writes Donald Trump out in a very public way, strategically. And it's not necessarily about revenge. It's just calling him out on what has happened. And the Elon fans are going to like fight with the MAGA fans, and it's going to be a whole effery. Now, people are actively telling Elon, I wouldn't do that if I were you. They're basically saying to him, like, stay quiet, de-escalate, just go along with him, because Trump is viewed as dangerous right now. Not him as a person, because he couldn't hurt a fucking fly if he tried to. He has no literal anything, but it's the people that he works for. Oh, by the way, there was a balloon in the air and they thought it was a cartel coming for him, because he is under the assumption that the Mexican cartel is coming for him. And boy, if they are coming for you, they ain't coming for you with a balloon. They are coming for you with your food, with your McDonald's, silently, not be in front of people. No. This is by yourself, boy. They ain't gonna try to go against your military. And Elon is not someone who's gonna sit there and wait and stay quiet. He's waiting and calculating. Now let's talk about Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a very, how do I say it, unsettling. Although I think there are good parts of Bill Gates, he's just as bad. He's got a whole facade, a whole ass facade to make himself look better than he is. And all of the things coming out about Bill Gates with his wife keeping him accountable, him saying he wishes he never met Epstein. Well, Bill, why didn't you come and share these details when we were chasing after the whole Epstein thing for quite some time? I know that he knew he was in there, but he thought he would just get away with it and or pay people to protect and make sure that it was not shared. But I don't think that Bill realized how deeply it was. From what I can see, he did dabble in some 17-year-old female energy, getting lap dances. I think Epstein tried to push him a little bit further when it comes to
dabbling in like things that he could essentially get blackmail from. And I don't feel like Bill did any of that, but I do believe that Bill participated in the group activities where the women would come out and do all of these different things. And I do see that he felt icky about it, but I also feel like he should have stood up and said something. I feel like he had direct connection to Virginia and many other victims of Epstein. And instead of being somebody to come forward, like going to court and being like, yeah, I was there, I witnessed these things, he could have done that, but he decided not to, because then that would out him as somebody involved. This looks much worse there, Bill. Now, why did Bill Gates continue to keep having meetings with Epstein after his conviction? Blackmail. Epstein had that blackmail on him. I see that there was a girl who was, giving him a lap dance. It's not a very big video in comparison to what he had on others, but Bill certainly didn't want that out. And it was inappropriate. He smacked a girl's ass from what I can see, put money in her panties, and quite possibly was making out with this girl. She was passed around through person to person to person, and they have footage of it. That's why I believe that they still had contact. Now, with Bill Gates, he was somebody who Epstein liked to communicate with just on the intelligence side of things. And from what I can see, Epstein thought that Bill could help him out. And I hate to say this, but do you guys remember when I talked heavily about the dark web and how they have children being auctioned off to the highest bidder? And that's kids that have been stolen, high profile cases, abductions that people don't know, and the ones of parents, giving away their children, undercover births where they throw these children in the system and raise them, and then eventually they become pawns in this scheme. Well, I see that Epstein wanted Bill Gates to create something solid so that they basically could get away with doing this. And I believe that Bill was asked about it, and I think Bill helped a little bit. I don't necessarily think he did the logistics behind it, because I keep seeing him saying, no, I'm not interested in that, and or saying, oh, I wouldn't know how to go about doing something like that. So from what I gather, that was a big reason why Epstein wanted Bill around. He would pull people in so that he can control the narrative and that he could blackmail every one of these people. Now let's move into somebody a little younger, Mark Zuckerberg. Now, Mark is not just, a CEO. He controls like ecosystems where information is amplified, buried, or redirected. When somebody becomes hard to find online, it's rarely because it disappeared. It's because it was made inconvenient. Somebody else that he wanted to use. With Mark, though, he enjoyed it. I believe that there are a lot of things out there with Mark, with young underage girls that will eventually come forward as well. I don't feel like he managed Epstein's content, but he did oversee systems that allow others to decide how visible truth was allowed to be and when. And I hate to say this, but from my visions, I believe that Zuckerman was the one who helped organize the online dark web, which has made it virtually invincible. And I believe that even when it finally gets discovered, because it will, I think we already have people working on the discovery of it. But when it comes forward, when we find out in a significant way, Mark's imprint, his footprint, will be all over it. And I believe that he'll go down for that as well. He could access and see all of these children being trafficked. Okay, I think we are done for today. It is a lot of information to process. We will be back next week. I want to go through a lot of celebrities. We'll be covering Naomi Campbell first. She's got a big role as well. This video will be on the exclusive side, so make sure to become an exclusive member. You cannot sign up from an iPhone. You have to sign up from an Android and or a computer. So highly recommend doing so. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Until next time, stay freaked out.